There is a quiet miracle that begins when you stop asking what is true and begin choosing what you assume is, not because truth is hidden, but because your assumption is the lens that makes it visible. The power of chosen assumptions is not merely an intellectual idea, it is the sacred key that unlocks the hidden architecture of your reality. Each thought you accept, each belief you silently agree to, becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your experience. And if you pause just long enough to ask, what am I choosing to believe right now? You might begin to see how every moment is not a reaction to life, but a creation of it. Assumptions are seeds, sown not with shovels, but with silent consent. You plant them each time you say, this is just how it is, or that could never happen for me. And those seeds, watered with repetition, grow into the towering trees of your reality. We wander through forest of our own assumptions, forgetting we planted them, and yet you are never trapped. The same power that formed your prison is the key to your freedom. You need only awaken to the truth that what you assume with feeling, with conviction, shapes what is. The world you see is not the world that is. It is the world filtered through your accepted ideas of it. The Tao whispers, the world is a reflection, and still we try to fix the mirror while ignoring the face. We clench our fists at outer conditions, never noticing that the projector is within. Your assumptions are not passive, they are commands given to the universe, affirming your alignment. And the universe, with unerring precision and infinite neutrality, obeys. To assume with awareness is to claim your divine inheritance. It is to recognize that you are not a victim of circumstance, but a steward of vibration. Every chosen assumption is a vibration, and vibration precedes manifestation. You cannot receive what you have not prepared yourself to assume. You cannot walk into peace while assuming chaos is inevitable. You cannot taste love while assuming your worth must be proven first. It is not because life withholds these things from you, it is because you've assumed they belong to someone else. Look gently within and ask, what have I made sacred without ever questioning it? The assumption that healing must take years. The belief that your past defines your future. The quiet conviction that life must be earned through struggle. These are not truths, they are unconscious agreements. But what if, in this moment, you made a new agreement? What if you assume that grace moves faster than time, that your soul cannot be stained, that abundance is your native language? What if you assumed, and I mean truly lived, as though you are already loved, already chosen, already whole? The ego will protest. It lives in the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. It feeds on fear disguised as realism. It says, be careful, don't assume too much, you'll be disappointed. But the soul speaks differently. The soul does not calculate risks, it radiates. It assumes worthiness not because it is proven, but because it is. It assumes connection because separation is a myth. It assumes possibility because it remembers where it came from. And where you came from, let us not forget, is divine mind, the source of all. Jesus said, as you believe, so shall it be done unto you. He did not say as you try or as you plan, but as you believe. Belief is the fire. Assumption is the flame. They are not wishes whispered into a void. They are spiritual declarations, subtle yet seismic. What you believe about life becomes your experience of it. And life does not argue. It does not contradict you. It simply reflects you, lovingly, endlessly, until you awaken. So I ask you now, what are you choosing to assume? Not in theory, not in a journal entry, but in your breath, in the way you rise each morning, in the tone of your voice, in the stillness between your thoughts. Are you assuming that you are supported by life or that you are alone? Are you assuming that miracles are natural or that struggle is noble? Are you assuming that something beautiful is trying to emerge or that nothing ever really changes? Your assumptions speak louder than your prayers. They are prayers. And the universe listens, not to the words you say, but to the energy you hold. You can say, I want peace, and yet live as though danger is around every corner. You can say, I am worthy, but assume each compliment is a lie. You can say, I believe, but still brace for disappointment. Assumptions do not hide. They are carved into your posture, your decisions, your pace. But here is the grace. Assumptions can be rewritten, not by force, but by willingness, by choosing again and again to return to your spiritual authorship, to declare, I now assume that life loves me, that what I desire is already here, ripening in the unseen. That everything unfolding is part of my awakening. This is not delusion, this is alignment. And alignment is not effort, it is surrender. Rumi once wrote, "Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure." That is an assumption, a chosen lens that transmutes suffering into sacredness. What if you assume that nothing in your life has ever been wasted, that each heartbreak was a clearing, each disappointment a redirection, each silence a divine recalibration? What if you saw your past not as a chain, but as a lantern? Let us go deeper still. What if you assumed you were guided right now by a benevolent intelligence that knows more than your mind can comprehend? What if you stopped asking for signs and began assuming that every breath is one? The leaf falling, the unexpected delay, the stranger's kindness. What if you lived in the certainty that nothing is random, that even this moment, these words, this breath, this ache is perfectly placed for your transformation? To choose your assumption is to step into your creative authority. It is to stop reacting and begin co-creating. It is to stop begging life to change and instead change the energy with which you meet life. The external will rearrange itself to match the internal, not instantly, but inevitably. But it must be consistent. You cannot sow one assumption today and another tomorrow and wonder why nothing grows. You must persist in the feeling of the desired assumption until it becomes natural, until it no longer feels like pretending, but remembering, until the new belief feels more real than the old pain, and it will. The soul has always known. Assume the highest and release the rest. Assume that love is on its way, not because you earned it, but because you are it. Assume that healing is unfolding, not in spite of the wound, but because of it. Assume that your path is blessed, not because it is easy, but because it is sacred. Let every step be taken with the quiet power of one who knows they are carried. Let your inner dialogue become a hymn of worthiness. Let your assumptions become altars and your life a living prayer. You are not here to wonder if you're allowed to receive joy. You are here to assume joy's presence in every unfolding. You are not here to tiptoe through fear. You are here to walk as the embodiment of divine certainty. You are not here to question your light. You are here to shine so brightly that even your shadows remember their holiness. So choose wisely. Choose the assumption that liberates, that heals, that expands. Choose the thought that feels like an open sky. Choose the energy that sings of home. You are not at the mercy of the world's weather. You are the one who chooses the sky. And as you choose the sky, you begin to remember the winds have always listened to you. Not the you made of resume and reputation, but the eternal presence beneath the names and narratives. You begin to walk, not with urgency, but with reverence each step, not a chase toward a destination, but a dance with what is already sacred. You begin to feel the soft pulse of creation, not as something distant, but as something humming gently beneath your ribs. That hum, it is the sound of divine permission, permission to exist, to expand, to expect goodness not as a reward, but as your rightful inheritance. When you let go of the worn-out assumption that life must be earned, something miraculous happens. You begin to relax into grace. And in that grace, there is room for beauty to bloom where you least expect it. You stop rehearsing disappointment and begin preparing for wonder. You stop bracing for collapse and start leaning into love. And slowly, the inner grip begins to loosen. The armor cracks, the river flows. To assume the best is not naivety, it is spiritual maturity. It is the choice to see through the eyes of the infinite, not to ignore pain, but to see through it. Not to bypass grief, but to hold it in a larger field of meaning. Every soul that has ever awakened has made this sacred leap, to trust what cannot yet be seen more than what has already been experienced. They have chosen, against all worldly odds, to lean toward light. And so I ask you, can you lean now? Lean away from the identity built in reaction to the world's confusion. Lean away from the script written in fear, where safety was the currency and approval the prize. Lean away from the voice that whispers, be realistic, when your soul is pleading, be free. Lean toward the mystery, toward the unseen support that has never once abandoned you, toward the whisper of intuition that needs no evidence, only willingness. The great sages knew this, that reality is fluid, shaped not by what has been, but by what is being claimed in this moment. Neville Goddard said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And in that feeling, not in thought alone, but in felt embodiment, you create. Not later, not when the outer world agrees, but now, where all creation lives. And so your task is not to work harder, but to align deeper, not to force the manifestation, but to become the vibration of what you desire. Do not ask for peace, become it. Do not chase clarity, embody it. Do not plead for love, radiate it so fully that life cannot help but reflect it back in form. This is the inner alchemy. This is not about pretending something is true. It is about tuning yourself so thoroughly to the frequency of your desired state that it becomes the most natural thing in the world. When you truly assume abundance, scarcity becomes a foreign language. When you truly assume your worth, rejection loses its sting. When you truly assume you are loved, even silence begins to feel like a song. Let each breath you take be an agreement, a silent, sacred yes to the reality you are choosing. Let your nervous system begin to trust again, not because the world has changed, but because your relationship to it has. Let your cells remember the intelligence that formed them from stardust, and let that memory shape your walk, your gaze, your tone, your choices. You are not here to analyze your old wounds like archaeologists of pain. You are here to claim the wholeness that was never touched by the wound. You are not here to prove yourself to the world. You are here to live as one who knows the world cannot contain the full expression of who you are. Assume it now, not as fantasy, but as faith. Assume that the next chapter of your life is already blooming in the unseen, and that your only job is to make room for it. Assume that the love you once begged for now finds you effortlessly, because you are no longer standing in the way. Assume that the you that's rising now quiet, luminous, sovereign, is the real you, the original self, long buried under borrowed definitions. You need not fix yourself. You need not earn anything. You need only to stop resisting what has always been true, that you are the portal, not the seeker. You are the cause, not the consequence. You are not waiting for reality to change. You are reality learning to choose again. And this choosing, gentle, steady, holy, is the most radical act of all. And as this sacred choosing ripples through your awareness, you begin to realize how profoundly free you truly are. Not someday, not when the external validates your becoming, but now, in this quiet, eternal now, where nothing is missing and everything is unfolding. The illusion that life happens to you begins to dissolve like morning mist, and in its place a deeper knowing emerges. Life is happening through you, as you, for you. You are not an accidental observer in a vast, impersonal universe. You are the universe, localized in human form, awakening to its own creative capacity. And in this awakening, you no longer beg the world to mirror back your worth. You stand in the grace of your own being. And that stance, not aggressive, not demanding, but rooted and radiant, shifts the atmosphere around you. You become less concerned with what appears and more attuned to what is being birthed through your presence. You begin to walk like one who is held. You begin to speak like one who no longer needs to be right, only real. You begin to notice the subtle guidance woven into every moment, not just the dramatic revelations, but the soft nudges, the gentle synchronicities, the sacred coincidences that whisper, this path is yours. You are no longer living in reaction to the past or rehearsal of the future. You are no longer waiting for permission from a world that cannot see the full map of your soul's journey. You are living from the center. And in that center, assumption becomes not just a thought, it becomes a frequency. A living, breathing field of possibility that surrounds you like light. You walk into rooms and the atmosphere bends gently around your vibration, not because you dominate, but because you emanate. This is not magic. This is alignment. This is not pretending that all is well. It is realizing that your inner state creates the conditions that invite wellness. This is not about bypassing the shadows. It is about shining so brightly from within that even your shadows begin to soften and speak the truth they were guarding all along. They were never there to harm you. They were thresholds asking you to choose again. To look at the pain and say, even here, I assume love is possible. Even now, I trust something sacred is at work. This kind of inner shift cannot be faked because it lives not in appearance, but in essence. And when your essence begins to remember its own brilliance, your life becomes a mirror of that remembrance. The job you once chased now chases you. The relationship you longed for now flows toward you. The sense of purpose you begged to find now rises from within you like spring, rising from winter, not sudden, but unstoppable. You do not control this unfolding. You welcome it, You do not strive to hold it. You relax into it. And in that relaxation, you return to your original frequency, not the one shaped by wounds or noise, but the one you carried before the world told you who you were supposed to be. That frequency is not low or high, it is deep. It is quiet. It is vast. And when you rest in it, you stop measuring your life by outcomes and begin living it from alignment. Assume not because you are in denial, but because you are in communion with the greater truth, the truth that your inner world is primary and everything else is a response. When you see this clearly, you no longer become entangled in appearances. You no longer plead for life to change. You recognize that life is the echo of your vibration, and so you begin there, always there. The soul does not ask, how long must I wait? The soul says, I already am. The ego pleads for proof. The soul moves in knowing. And the more you dwell in soul consciousness, the more you discover that the waiting was never necessary, only the remembering. You begin to assume the highest good, not as a hope, but as an inevitability. You begin to breathe in the certainty that what aligns with your truth cannot miss you, that what belongs to your becoming cannot pass you by. And if something does pass you by, you bless it. You do not curse its leaving. You honor it as a completed chapter in the sacred book of your unfolding. You assume that every loss has left behind a hidden gift, and you open yourself to receive it. You assume that endings are not failures, but shifts in the path of grace. And you trust, oh, how you trust, that your life is always orchestrated by a wisdom far deeper than logic and far kinder than fear. This trust, once chosen, becomes your compass. You no longer ask the wind to change direction. You become the sail that catches it. You no longer force outcomes. You become the space through which outcomes unfold. And in that spaciousness, the assumptions you carry become not constraints, but conduits, sacred blueprints that invite the invisible into form. So assume now, with your whole being, that you are already in harmony, that the answers you seek are seeking you, that the next step on your path is being illuminated as you take the first, that your presence is not accidental, but precise. Assume that you are worthy of joy, not later, but now. Assume that love is your atmosphere, not your reward. Assume that your destiny is not a destination, but a vibration, and you are living it every time you align with your truth. You do not need to scream this knowing into the world. Let it live quietly in your bones. Let it shape the way you move, the way you sit with silence, the way you hold another's gaze without needing to explain yourself. This is your sanctuary, not a place, but a state of being. And once you dwell here, truly dwell, you will find that life begins to mirror back a deeper rhythm, not rushed, not fragile, but whole, because you are no longer trying to make it all happen. You are allowing it all to be. And this is the power of chosen assumptions. You see, the moment you begin to allow, the current of life no longer feels like something you must swim against. It becomes a sacred tide that carries you not towards some distant shore, but deeper into the ocean of your own being. And there, in that still water, the noise of striving fades, and something ancient stirs, a knowing, a whisper, a presence that doesn't ask you to achieve or accumulate. It simply invites you to remember who you were before the world named you. This remembrance is not loud, it is not dramatic, it arrives quietly, like dawn entering a darkened room. And with it comes a revelation so subtle, so transformative, that it reshapes your life from the inside out. You never needed the world to change in order to feel whole. You only needed to stop arguing with what already is. You only needed to drop the assumption that peace was elsewhere and recognize it was patiently waiting in the breath you kept overlooking. The ego craves complexity, but the soul longs for simplicity. And in its simplicity, it knows that the most profound truths require no explanation. They are felt, not proven. They are lived, not debated. And the most liberating of all truths is this: you are already complete, and the assumptions you choose are the music that awakens that completeness into motion. Choose wisely, and your life becomes a symphony. Choose unconsciously, and your life becomes noise. The mind may ask, but what if I am wrong? What if I assume goodness and life gives me pain? And to this the soul replies, then let the pain come, but let it meet your light. Let it come, and let it pass, as all things do. For when you assume from love, even suffering becomes a servant of grace. It cannot root itself in the fertile soil of your divine awareness. It may arrive, but it will not stay. Because what stays, what lingers, what becomes your experience, is not what visits you, but what you invite to stay. An assumption is an invitation. It is the doorway through which all experience walks. You cannot live in a frequency of fear and expect the fruits of faith. You cannot carry the vibration of lack and wonder why abundance does not knock. You cannot hold the mirror of unworthiness and be surprised when the world reflects it back. But shift the frame, even slightly, and the whole scene changes. Not because the outer world suddenly became generous, but because your lens stopped distorting the truth. Assume not as a strategy, but as a sacred act of alignment. Assume love because it's the truth of your being, not because you're trying to attract it. Assume healing because wholeness is your birthright, not because you want to escape pain. Assume clarity not as a tactic to control outcomes, but as a natural state, returning the moment you release the fog of overthinking. And slowly, like roots growing unseen beneath the soil, your life begins to rearrange itself, not with spectacle, but with grace. You meet people who speak to your soul, not your wounds. Opportunities arise that feel like recognition, not conquest. Synchronicities become common, not rare, because you are no longer vibrating out of sync with your essence. You are tuned, at last, to the station of your soul. This is not a journey of reaching outward, it is a deepening inward. And each time you return to your chosen assumption, gently, faithfully, even when doubt arises, you water the soil of your becoming. You speak to life in its native language, vibration. You sing to the universe in tones it understands, trust, presence, love. And life, recognizing its reflection in you, begins to respond in kind. You begin to sense the divine not as something above or beyond, but as something intimate, breathing you, moving you, speaking through the choices you make when you are still enough to listen. And in this intimacy, fear begins to dissolve, not because the unknown is gone, but because you are no longer resisting it. You are meeting it as a co-creator, a participant in the great unfolding, not a bystander pleading for mercy. This is the real power, the quiet power of chosen assumptions. They do not roar. They do not need to. Their strength is not in volume, but in alignment. They shape the invisible scaffolding of your life without forcing, without shouting, without needing to be seen. They operate beneath the surface, where the most important shifts always take place. And as you dwell more and more in this quiet power, you stop asking for signs that you're on the right path. You realize the path is made with each step of alignment you take. You stop looking for destiny as something to find. You begin to live destiny as something to express. The light you've been waiting for is not at the end of some spiritual finish line. It is here, now, within. It glows in the stillness behind your eyes. It hums in the silence between your thoughts. It speaks in the space where assumptions become prayers and prayers become embodiment. Assume it now, live it now, and watch as life, like a perfect mirror, reveals what was waiting to be seen all along. And now, as the breath softens and the silence gathers around your spirit like the first hush of twilight, you find that there is nothing left to search for because what was once distant has become present. What was once hoped for is now embodied. The seeking ends not in a triumph, but in a surrender, a falling inward, a gentle remembering that all along you were never moving toward your power, you were moving through it. You were carried even in the confusion, held even in the ache, guided even in the silence. And this guidance, this eternal presence, has never needed to prove itself. It is not loud. It does not demand belief. It waits patiently for you to stop asking life to become different and begin becoming different in the way you meet life. It waits for the moment you drop the armor, the script, the need to be understood, and simply stand here as you are in the full radiance of your chosen truth. You realize now that you are the artist and the canvas, the seed and the soil, the wave and the ocean. You are not the echo of your history. You are the presence of infinite possibility made visible. Every assumption you now choose breathes life into a world that only you can paint. And so you choose, not with pressure, but with peace. Not with fear, but with a full-bodied yes to who you've always been, beneath the noise. Let your inner dialogue speak as a friend now, not a critic, not a skeptic, but a gentle voice that trusts your becoming. Let it say, this is safe, this is right. You are allowed to believe in beauty again. and when the winds of doubt return, for they will let them pass without attachment. You do not need to wrestle the storm. You need only remember that the sky it moves through is unchanged. The assumptions you carry are not decorations, they are directions. They move the unseen. They shape the path ahead, not by force, but by resonance. And when your resonance sings the song of love, the universe, as though awakened by its own reflection, begins to harmonize. You become magnetic not because you strive, but because you align. You become a lighthouse not because you chase the boats, but because you remain rooted in the light. This is not the end. This is the unfolding, the soft, sacred continuation of a life remembered, a life chosen, a life lived not by reaction, but by divine intention. You will still walk through uncertainty, but now with trust. You will still face seasons of change, but now with inner stillness. You will still encounter shadows, but now with the knowing that light is your native language. And so you breathe deeply now, not to calm yourself, but to celebrate yourself, to anchor into the knowing that you are no longer waiting, you are allowing, you are no longer striving, you are aligning, you are no longer doubting, you are becoming. And even that word becoming softens because you see that you've already arrived. You rest here, not in defeat, but in truth. You rest in the holy rhythm of a life no longer governed by fear, but moved by spirit. And as you rest, the world around you begins to rearrange itself, not because you demanded it, but because you finally matched it with your vibration. Everything shifts from here, not because you earned it, but because you allowed it. And in that allowing, you've remembered what sages and mystics and poets have always known. You are the creator, the field, the echo, and the voice. You are not becoming the light. You are the light. You are the light. You are the light. There is a truth so soft it cannot be shouted, so powerful it cannot be denied. You do not need to hope for what is already yours. You need only to assume the truth of your being. Assume it the way the sun assumes its rising, the way the ocean assumes its depth, the way the stars assume their right to shine. Hope waits for something to arrive, but assumption knows it has already come. And the moment you assume that you are worthy, you awaken the divine within you, not in arrogance, but in remembrance. In that holy stillness, beyond striving, beyond begging, beyond needing, you arrive. You were never meant to plead for love, for abundance, for healing. You were meant to claim them not as entitlements of ego, but as birthrights of spirit. The lilies of the field do not hope to be adorned. They bloom in the knowing that they are already adorned by the source of all life. The birds of the air do not wake with anxiety. They sing because they assume the sky will hold them. You too are meant to live like this, not reaching, but resting, not hoping, but knowing, not performing, but embodying. To hope is to place your dreams at a distance. To assume is to close that distance with faith. This is not the faith of wishing, it is the faith of alignment, of walking as if it were already done, because in the mind of the infinite, it already is. Time is not linear in the realm of spirit. Every possibility already exists, suspended in sacred stillness, waiting not to be created, but to be claimed. And when you assume your divinity, your wholeness, your worthiness, you step into the stream of what already is. You merge with the current of your highest self. This is not a denial of the world. It is a refusal to be ruled by its illusions. It is the quiet revolution of awakening, where you stop living as a seeker and begin to live as a knower. The Tao says, he who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know. But you, beloved soul, are being called into a new knowing, not of words, but of embodiment, not of concepts, but of being. You are being invited to shed the identity of the one who needs to be fixed and assume the identity of the one who has always been whole. Assume peace, not when the world is calm, but when your breath returns to its natural rhythm. Assume love, not when another offers it, but when you remember that you are its source. Assume abundance, not when the numbers align, but when you recognize that true wealth is your capacity to give, to create, to trust the flow. And assume healing, not as a future goal, but as a present permission. Healing does not wait for proof, it begins with belief. The body responds, not to fear, but to the frequency of faith. Do not beg the universe for what you are. You are not a beggar at the gates of heaven. You are heaven remembering itself in form. You are not a seeker knocking on the door of truth. You are the door. already open, already shining. Every time you say, I hope it will happen, you affirm its absence. But every time you say it is done, you shift the entire cosmos in your favor. Not because you control the universe, but because you have ceased resisting it. What you assume, you embody. What you embody, you attract. What you attract, you become. This is not magic, it is metaphysics. The laws of energy, consciousness, vibration. The essence of all spiritual truth is that what you believe, you become. And the deepest belief is not spoken, it is lived. It is assumed in every breath, every step, every quiet yes to the present moment. When Jesus said, ask and you shall receive, he did not mean to plead. He meant to ask in faith and then walk as though you have already received. Because in the eyes of God, you already have. You are the creator of your state of being. And your state of being is the mold into which reality pours itself. Change your assumption and you change your life, not by force, but by frequency. Not by effort, but by alignment. And the only way to assume the truth is to stop assuming the lie. The lie that you are separate. The lie that you are unworthy. The lie that you must wait to become enough. Enoughness is not a destination. It is your original home. The soul never hopes it remembers. It doesn't strive, it allows. It doesn't doubt, it abides in truth. And that truth is, you are already what you long to be. You are not on a journey to earn your light, you are on a journey to uncover it. To strip away every falsehood that said, you are not. To burn through every illusion that whispered, one day, that day is not coming, that day is now. The awakening does not arrive with lightning or thunder, it arrives in the quiet assumption of truth. Let your life be a mirror of your inner certainty. Walk as one who knows not because the world told you, but because your soul cannot forget. Assume that the universe is on your side, and it begins to conspire in ways your logic could never predict. Assume that you are loved, and love begins to greet you in every glance, every breeze, every sacred silence. Assume that you are enough, and every circumstance that once echoed your lack begins to fall away like shadows at sunrise. There is no need to chase. There is no need to hope. There is only the sacred art of assumption. Walk not with the question, but with the answer already alive in your step. Say not, I hope I will be, but I am. Let your life become an embodiment of the divine certainty that what you are seeking has already been given, not outside you, not in some future chapter, but here, now, in this breath, in this being. And so you rise not with urgency, not with noise, but with the quiet assurance of one who remembers. You remember that you are not a visitor in this life, here to earn your place. You are an extension of the infinite, an echo of the divine, a wave from the great ocean of being. And in that remembering, there is nothing left to prove. The proving ends when the knowing begins. The performance dissolves when the presence returns. And what remains is sacred, softer than thought, deeper than identity, more lasting than any title you could wear. Assume your power, not the kind that conquers, but the kind that liberates. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that commands stillness. You see, the most powerful energy in the world is not force, it is presence. When you walk into a room with the assumption that you are whole, the room shifts, not because of your words, but because of your frequency. Not because of what you say, but because of what you are being. And being is always louder than doing. The soul doesn't shout, it emanates. This is the turning point, not when the world bends to your will, but when your will bends to the knowing that all is already well, that you don't need to chase what is already yours, that you don't need to be better in order to be divine. You were divine when you were born. You were divine before the world gave you a name, before you were praised, before you were criticized, before the masks, before the shame, before the striving. Underneath it all, your essence remains untouched. Assume it now, not when it's easy, not when the storm passes, but in the very center of the storm. Assume peace when the world offers noise. Assume joy when circumstances tempt sorrow. Assume trust when doubt pounds at the door. This is not spiritual naivety, it is spiritual mastery. To choose your vibration regardless of appearances. To stand in truth when illusion seduces. To assume the light even when shadows dance across your vision. And here lies the paradox. The less you need to be seen, the more clearly you shine. The less you grasp, the more freely life flows. The less you seek validation, the more magnetic your energy becomes. Because assumption is not about arrogance. It is not a mask you wear. It is a vibration you carry. It is what happens when you finally stop arguing with your divinity. When you stop auditioning for what has already been granted. When you walk into every moment not with fear of rejection, but with the quiet certainty of belonging. You belong. You have always belonged. The breath that moves through you is not yours by accident. It is the breath of the cosmos. It chose you. Not for punishment, not for performance, but for participation in this miracle called now. And this now, beloved soul, is where your power lives. Not yesterday, not someday, now. So begin. Begin again if you must. But begin from the assumption that you are not behind, not broken, not lacking. Begin from the sacred knowing that nothing real can be lost, that everything essential is already within, that the essence of who you are is not waiting for permission, it's waiting for presence. Show up to your life not with apology, but with reverence. Walk not as a seeker, but as one who has found and now lives to remember. Assume your healing. Assume your beauty. Assume your enoughness with every breath. Not because the world confirms it, but because the soul never needed confirmation. It only needed your attention, and now you are listening. From the first moment your heart began to beat, before language, before thought, before memory, there was already an intelligence living you, breathing you, being you. That intelligence is not interested in your performance. It does not measure your worth in titles or tasks. It knows you as itself. It does not hope that you will awaken. It assumes you will, because awakening is not a miracle reserved for the worthy. It is your nature. It is not a reward. It is a return. And you return not by becoming more, but by releasing what you are not. You release the need to earn your being. You release the fear that you are not ready. You release the belief that you must be fixed before you are free. You see, the ego waits for proof, but the soul walks by light, not the light of evidence, but the light of knowing, the kind of knowing that blooms in silence, the kind that cannot be explained, only felt, the kind that whispers in the middle of the night, you are already home. When you walk in assumption, you do not walk faster, you walk deeper. You begin to see through the veil of appearances. You see that pain is not a punishment, but a portal. That loss is not a failure, but a clearing. That delay is not denial, but divine choreography. You stop reacting to the surface and begin responding to the truth beneath it. You stop negotiating with life and start dancing with it. And in that dance, you are no longer a puppet of circumstance. You are a partner with the infinite. Assume and you create, not from the mind's desperation, but from the soul's remembrance. Assume and you open, you soften, you receive. You allow the river of life to carry you without resistance. Not because you are weak, but because you finally understand what real strength is. Strength is not control, it is surrender to what is real. It is not tightening your grip, it is loosening your identity until only presence remains. You do not need to hope that you are loved. You are love learning to see itself in every reflection, every hand you've held, every tear you've shed, every stranger you've smiled at, every act of forgiveness. These are not random. They are the soul's signature. They are reminders that you have always known the way home, even when your feet were tired, even when your voice trembled, even when your faith grew thin. And in the moments when you forgot, when you bent under the weight of doubt, you were still held, still guided, still wrapped in the arms of an unseen presence that does not hope you'll make it but knows you already have. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are, who you've always been, who you will always be beneath every mask, every name, every lifetime. You are the eternal breath breathing itself into form. You are the silence that sings beneath the noise. You are not the storm, you are the space that holds the storm. There is a sacred current running through your life. You do not need to control it. You need only to trust it. Assume that it is guiding you, even when doors close, even when hearts break, even when the map falls apart in your hands, especially then, because it is in those moments of surrender that you finally taste the truth, that life has never abandoned you. That grace is not a reward for perfection, it is a companion for the broken. It is the soft hand that lifts you when you have nothing left to lift yourself. It is the quiet presence that stands with you when hope is no longer enough. So stand now, not in defiance, but in trust. Stand not as one waiting for the world to tell you who you are, but as one who has remembered that you are a creator, not a victim, that you are a soul, not a story, that you are the observer, not the condition, the awareness, not the circumstance. You are not here to react, you are here to radiate, not because you are above pain, but because you are deeper than pain. Not because you do not struggle, but because you do not identify with the struggle. The struggle is part of your journey, but it is not your name. Your name is I am, your essence is being, your nature is divine. And once you assume this, truly assume it, everything begins to move differently around you. You speak differently, you breathe differently, you stop chasing validation because your worth is no longer in question. You stop explaining yourself because your being is its own explanation. You stop running because there is nothing to outrun. You are already here, and here is sacred. Let the world do what it must. Let others walk their own path. Your task is not to convince, it is to live. To be so anchored in your own light that you no longer require external confirmation to feel whole. The sun does not ask the sky if it may rise. The river does not seek permission to flow. And you, beloved soul, do not need to ask the world if you are enough. You are not waiting to become the light, you are remembering that you already are. This is the deep shift, the sacred reversal, the turning from hope to knowing, from seeking to embodying, from fear to trust. You stop trying to change the world from the outside in and begin changing it from the inside out by assuming your peace, your joy, your wholeness, your divinity. By becoming the frequency you once hoped to find, you stop looking for the miracle and start being the miracle. And in this being, there is no strain. There is only breath. There is only flow. There is only this moment, perfectly ordained, infinitely alive, and you here in the center of it all, remembering what cannot be taught, reclaiming what cannot be taken, becoming what you have always been. Do not hope for change, assume your power to be the change. Do not hope to be seen, assume your place in the great unfolding. Do not hope to be chosen, assume that you already are, by the very force that births stars and sings through your bones. You are not alone. You are not lost. You are not lacking. You are the breath of the divine made visible. You are the answer to your own question. You are the flame you've been chasing. And now you remember. The time for waiting has passed. The season of seeking is done. Now is the moment of becoming not something new, but something remembered. You were not born to inch toward the truth in measured, cautious steps. You were born to awaken in a single breath, to rise with the knowing that all of life is conspiring for your unfolding, that the ground beneath your feet does not merely hold you, it celebrates you, that the sky above does not merely stretch, it opens wide in recognition of your return. And so you return. You return to the still place, the sacred place, the silent center within you that has never known fear, never known lack, never known separation. This is the part of you that does not hope for peace, it is peace. It does not beg for love, it is love. It does not chase healing, it is the field in which all wounds dissolve. And when you live from this center, your life no longer spins in reaction, it radiates, it echoes, it blesses, without trying, without striving, like a flower blooming in its time, like a star burning without effort, like the breath that rises simply because it can. Do you see it now? How hope once served as a placeholder for your power. How you reached outward, not because you lacked, but because you forgot. You forgot the kingdom within, the light behind your eyes, the truth that cannot be spoken, but lives in the marrow of your being. And now, as that truth stirs once more, you begin to walk not as one who is trying, but as one who is remembering. You remember that you are the miracle. That you are not here to find worth, you are here to live it, to breathe it, to walk through the world as a living, moving, radiant declaration of enoughness. This shift changes everything. Your questions soften, your pace slows, your breath deepens. You stop rushing toward the future because you finally trust the present. You stop bargaining with life because you finally know who you are. And when you know who you are, you need not shout it, you need not defend it. You need not prove it to anyone, not even to yourself. The truth does not require your explanation. It only asks for your embodiment. And embodiment is where the sacred work begins. It is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real. Real in your pain, real in your joy, real in your silence, real in your laughter. It is about living not as a curated version of yourself, but as the raw, unfiltered presence of what is. That presence is powerful. Not because it dominates, but because it dissolves everything false. It is the quiet storm that clears the path, the sacred fire that burns the mask, the oceanic presence that needs no permission to flow. When you live as this presence, your life begins to arrange itself in mysterious ways. Not because you have finally figured it out, but because you have finally surrendered the need to figure it out. You stop asking for signs and become the sign. You stop looking for answers and become the answer. You stop praying for light and become the source of it. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is not delusion, it is devotion to truth. And the truth is, you are not separate from the source. You are its expression. You are not a servant of love, you are its embodiment. You are not a visitor in this universe, you are its heartbeat in human form. So walk now as one who knows, not with swagger, but with sacredness, not with pride, but with presence. Let every step you take affirm the truth you have claimed. Let every breath you draw be a testament to the life that lives through you. Let your silence be loud with knowing. Let your gaze carry the weight of eternity. And when doubt arises, as it will, do not shrink, do not run, do not hope it goes away. Assume your center once more. Return to your breath, return to your being. Doubt is not your enemy, it is your initiation. It is the shadow that confirms the presence of light. And your task is not to extinguish it, but to see it, hold it, and love yourself anyway. Love yourself anyway. Love yourself in the confusion, in the mess, in the unpolished moments. Love yourself not as a project to fix, but as a temple to inhabit. Assume your own worthiness so completely that even your flaws feel sacred, so deeply that even your wounds begin to sing. And yes, there will be moments when the old voices return, the voices that say, "Who do you think you are?" The voices that whisper, "You are not ready, not enough, not yet." Smile at them, bless them, but do not believe them, for they are echoes of a time when you hoped. And you, my dear, have moved beyond hope. You are not hoping anymore. You are being. You are knowing. You are remembering. And remembrance is a holy act. It is how the soul reclaims its throne. It is how the light returns to the eyes. It is how heaven finds a home on earth, not in cathedrals, but in consciousness. Not in doctrines, but in presence. You are that presence. And this life is your altar. This breath is your offering. This moment is your miracle. So breathe it in, all of it, the beauty, the ache, the wonder, the not knowing. Breathe it in, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a vessel of the divine. And as you do, feel the quiet revolution rising within you. The revolution that says, I no longer need to hope for peace. I am peace. I no longer need to hope for love. I am love. I no longer need to hope for worth. I am the breath of God in motion. I am. You are. And you always have been. There is a sacred rhythm beneath all things, a pulse, an invisible current, an ancient heartbeat echoing through every leaf, every wave, every breath you take. And you are not separate from this rhythm. You are the note that completes the song. You are the silence between the syllables of the divine. You are the awareness that turns mere existence into sacred experience. And when you remember this, when you drop back into the knowing of your essential nature, you stop waiting for life to grant you peace. You stop hoping to be chosen. You stop rehearsing a version of yourself that you think is lovable. You exhale the performance and inhale your truth. This is where freedom begins, not in having the perfect story, but in finally releasing the need to explain it. Not in reaching the summit, but in realizing that every step has always been holy, even the missteps, even the stumbles, even the nights you thought you'd never rise again, especially those nights, because that's when your soul was closest. Not loud, not flamboyant, just present, just patient, just there. Assume that every tear you've ever shed was not a sign of weakness, but a river of remembrance washing away the layers that no longer served you. Assume that every delay was grace in disguise. Assume that every ending was the soul making room for something more aligned. This is not a philosophy, it is the truth. A truth so intimate, so tender, that it refuses to shout. It waits for you to slow down. It waits for you to unclench your fists. It waits for you to stop running long enough to realize there was never anywhere to run. You are not missing anything. You have never been late. You have never been lost. The destination has always been within, and the key has always been presence. Not passive resignation, but active alignment. A conscious choosing to live as though the miracle has already happened, because in the timeless realm of your soul, it has. The shift occurred the moment you stopped hoping for it and began living from it. To live from assumption is to stop knocking on the door and realize you are the house, to stop lighting candles in the dark and realize you are the flame. You stop pleading for light because you remember you are what lights the way. The world outside may still dance in confusion, but you carry clarity now. Not because your mind has all the answers, but because your being is finally at home in the questions. You no longer need certainty. You've become the sacred space that can hold uncertainty without collapsing. And this, beloved, is the way of the mystic, the one who walks through life not demanding clarity from the world, but emanating clarity into it. The one who does not beg for peace, but becomes its living embodiment. The one who does not chase meaning, but breathes meaning into every gesture, every glance, every mundane moment that suddenly becomes holy in their presence. Do not underestimate this power. The ego will tell you that power comes from being seen, being praised, being recognized. But the soul knows that real power comes from alignment, from quiet assumption, from the gentle audacity to live as though heaven is here, because it is. Not out there, not in some faraway reward system, but here, in this breath, in this moment, in this body you occupy and this path you walk. And as you walk, you begin to notice things you once missed. You see beauty where there was once only urgency. You see grace in the places where pain used to live. You see the divine not just in mountaintops and sacred texts, but in traffic lights and grocery lines and tired eyes that carry stories you'll never fully know. Life stops being something to survive. It becomes something to savor. You're no longer measuring moments, you're merging with them, because hope creates distance, but assumption creates intimacy. Intimacy with life, intimacy with yourself, intimacy with the present moment, as it is not as it should be. And in that intimacy, the miraculous unfolds. Not in fireworks, not in dramatic revelations, but in the quiet miracle of being here, being real, being alive in a world that forgot how to slow down long enough to remember its soul. You are remembering now, not because I am telling you anything new, but because something inside you already knew. You knew that truth doesn't arrive, it is uncovered. You knew that love doesn't come and go, it is what remains when all fear is released. You knew that joy doesn't need a reason, it is your natural state when the mind softens and the heart opens. And now you live as that. You rise each day not with a checklist of how to earn love, but with the knowing that love is the ground of your being. You speak not to impress, but to connect. You give not to get, but because giving is your overflow. You create not to be noticed, but because the act of creation is its own reward. You walk through the world not hoping to be seen, but seeing everything more clearly. The sacred in the ordinary, the eternal in the fleeting, the divine in the details. You become, without trying, the lighthouse. The one who does not chase ships, but stands rooted in truth, radiating light, not for applause, not for recognition, but because it is your nature, and that is enough. Let this be the moment you stop asking if you are worthy and begin living as though worthiness was stitched into your very breath. Let this be the moment you no longer plead for peace, but instead breathe as if peace were the air itself. Let this be the moment you stop standing at the gate of your own life, waiting for the world to hand you permission, and instead step in. You have waited long enough. You have doubted long enough. You have whispered prayers into the night, hoping the stars would answer. And now, they do not with noise, but with light. Not with promises, but with presence. And that presence is not coming from the sky. It is rising from within you. You are not the echo of broken moments. You are the original sound of being. You are not the shadow of past decisions. You are the living truth unfolding in this breath. And there is no version of you more sacred than the one sitting here now, breathing this air, carrying this heart, walking this earth. You do not need to see the whole path. You only need to trust that each step you take from truth is its own arrival. You do not need the applause of the world. You need only the quiet approval of your soul. And your soul is already nodding, already whispering, yes, yes, beloved, this is it. This is the moment you stop hoping and begin assuming. Assume your light. Assume your place. Assume the throne within your own being, not to rule, but to remember. Because the one who hopes is the one who believes it is not yet time. But the one who assumes breathes with the rhythm of eternity. You have nothing to prove, no gate to unlock, no worth to earn. All has already been given. It is only your permission to receive that was missing, and now you give it with a sigh, with a surrender, with a sacred yes that vibrates through your entire being. Yes, to the life that is already yours. Yes, to the truth that cannot be revoked. Yes, to the light that does not flicker when storms arise. You do not hope for the sun to rise, you assume it will. You do not question the waves, they come. You do not beg the stars to return, they arrive, night after night, without fail. So too is your essence. So too is your worth. So too is the love that breathes through your chest and guides your every step. You are the arrival you've been waiting for. You are the answered prayer you once whispered into the dark. You are the light you tried so long to chase. And now you see, you were never meant to chase it. You were meant to be it. And so you rise not by reaching, but by remembering. Not with force, but with faith. Not with hope, but with assumption. Because now, and now you are free.